Alright, hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor, and if you have ever watched a video on this channel, you know this is not my bedroom. So I am actually in a little cabin in Hewlett, Wyoming. This is my first full day here. It's Friday, May 17th, and I'm leaving on Sunday, so I'll have all day tomorrow too. And I'm having the best time, and I thought I wanted to, have some wine and, just sit and chat with you guys. Today's topic is kind of a hot button one, but I think if we keep open minds and open hearts, we can really have a wonderful, nuanced discussion in the comments or, what have you. So, I really tried to, give the coziest of vibes. So, let me know what you think about, this lighting situation. Might be a bit dark, but, I like it. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to give, sleepover vibes. I have my crochet blanket. This is a Stella Rosa Moscato d'Asti wine. Very, very good. I remember the first time I had Moscato d'Asti. It was actually at an Olive Garden. But yeah, just doing a little skincare with these eye masks. Just honestly relaxing, even though this topic might, get me a little heated. But today I would like to talk about my complicated feelings on having children. So I just want to give a disclaimer. If you see me looking over here, all of my notes are on my laptop. But I want to give a disclaimer here. I am not married, I have no kids, and I'm not in a relationship of any kind where I'm talking about having kids. I'm a single woman. These opinions are mine and mine alone, and I don't care what other people do with their bodies or how they live their lives. People can have all the children that they want and do whatever, but this is what I feel. I know that I'm not alone in this, and I want to be able to create a safe space for people to discuss this and talk about it, and maybe, women who don't have kids can chime in and give advice on, maybe how to have those tougher conversations with family and friends, because sometimes people think that people have opinions on you having children, which, whatever. But I want to give a safe space for this discussion, because I know I want to have a nuanced discussion. I want to have something that I want to create a space on the internet where we can talk about things where it's not so black and white, because things like this, they're not black and white. So that out of the way, let's just kind of get started. Don't forget to give this video a like. If you like content like this, please subscribe to the channel. I want to do a lot more videos kind of like this, mostly talking about just things with being a mid-20s woman. I know that other people are also talking about these things on the internet, and I feel like as a chronically online person, I feel like I see a lot of different things, and I want to know more. I want to know how so many people think and all these different things. So subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to learn how to crochet or talk about books, we're very multifaceted on this channel. So grab a glass of wine and let's get started. So here's just a little bit of background on me. I grew up always thinking I was going to have kids one day. I just, thought that's what you did. I grew up in the Catholic Church, but I was not indulged in purity culture, so my religious upbringing doesn't really have a lot to do with those thought processes, I don't think. I could be wrong, but growing up in the house I did, that's just how I feel about it. I knew I wanted a partner one day because my mom and dad always talked about how they were best friends, and I married my best friend. That's that's how you know you want to get married one day. So I always like had crushes on boys growing up and stuff. So I just always thought, you know, like I'll get married one day and I will have kids. So my mom had my siblings when I was 9, 11, and 14 respectively. So I do have 3 younger siblings. And my parents both worked until I started high school when my mom became a stay-at-home mom. So to help out with that, since I was so much older, I did feed bottles and change diapers and helped with laundry and dishes and, you know, all of those kind of like home things, because my dad was working 2 jobs, my mom was working, and, you know, my grandparents also helped out a lot. With having a big family, it is so nice to have that community, and that's just, you know, what we did. So like a little bit of a side tangent, you know how you might have this kind of like timeline for your life? I have kind of removed myself from this thought of like wanting timelines in my life. But when I was growing up, I really thought that like 24 was like old, and that I was going to like marry someone that I met in college, and I would start having babies at 26. And now, as a 26-year-old woman, the thought of having a child right now still seems akin to like being like was it still being like 16 and pregnant. And I think that those like what were they called? Oh god, like we had so many like talks in school about like having safe sex or like just abstaining from sex. In high school, I was actually I went to a public high school and they did a whole class day on abstinence. That is not the point. Let me get back to it. So my complicated feelings with having children did start in college. At first I was like, no kids ever, without really giving it a second thought. And once I was out of college and on TikTok more, I really started to create a more well-rounded opinion on the matter. So the only reason that I would say TikTok comes into this is because TikTok has finally given a platform where people can truly share their stories without any barriers to entry, really. And I know that YouTube is something that doesn't really have barriers to entry, but YouTube very much favors this more 20-minute long-form content, which I love. I will sit and watch it all day. But a lot of people nowadays, you have to get it in those bite-sized images, or even just like reading it on an Instagram post, it can be like too much. And with TikTok, you almost have that anonymity, almost like Reddit, where there are so many people that, you know, if the people who don't know you, or the people who know you already don't follow you, it's almost unlikely that they might see what you're posting unless you have their phone number, and then TikTok's like, you might know this person. But besides the point, TikTok didn't have that when I first started developing these more nuanced opinions on the matter. So I have 4 main points that I want to talk about with pregnancy and like children and all that sort of stuff. I know that I've talked a little bit, but yeah, there's going to be 4 main parts of this video. So first, pregnancy scares the absolute fuck out of me. My mom did have some complications with my younger siblings, which did scare me a lot. Like, it was a very tough time for me. I was so young, and there were some things I knew and some things I was in the dark about that I learned when I got older. And no, I don't think that my family members should have told me everything at the time. I'm glad that they withheld that information from me until I was absolutely old enough to hear it, comprehend it, understand it. But I also know other people who have had pregnancy complications or had to go through things, and pregnancy is just so hard on a woman's body. Your body has changed forever, and no matter what you do, society like scrutinizes you for how you handle your pregnant and postpartum body. Also, you know, goes with people talking about like people thinking that they can just touch your belly now that you're public property for whatever reason, which is asinine. You can't just touch people without their consent. Or, you know, talking about what you can and can't eat as if your doctor didn't already tell you, or, you know, you have that conversation with your doctor. And I know that this all kind of rounds back to like, oh, it doesn't matter what people say, but like, yeah, you can say that, but like, sometimes it gets to you, and that just makes you human. So I also know that giving birth hurts, and I honestly like don't really want to deal with that. I also had a roommate in college majoring in nursing, and she told me that the US had the highest number of maternal deaths out of all the developed nations because of medical malpractice that happens in the United States. And I did in fact check that today, because she had told me that I think in 2019, and it is still true today. I googled it. I've heard horror stories about women's pain and not being taken seriously, and then they end up dying because of it. And I just like don't want to put myself in a situation like that, especially if I live in a state that like doesn't have as many reproductive rights. And I really don't want to go into that, but if you are kind of wondering what I'm talking about, I would just look up some of the things that are going on with Texas and some of the complications that women are having with their pregnancies and how they're rectifying those. So that's kind of the first thing, is like I'm scared. I'm scared of being pregnant. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's natural, it's beautiful. And I'm not saying that it isn't those things. I think just for me, knowing what I know, seeing what I've seen, it is scary. And for me, that doesn't mean that it's scary for other people, but you know, I feel like it's a valid thing. Your body, your physical self is changed forever, and then you have to, you know, get used to yourself all over again. I know that, you know, when I was in college, you know, people kind of talk about that second puberty thing when I started like filling out truly, and, you know, even just gaining a little bit of extra weight. I really had a tough time adjusting to my new body. And so I can only imagine how hard it is when, you know, you grew a literal human inside you. Like that's completely different, you know, but those are, you know, the experiences I have to relate with. So the second reason of my complicated feelings about having children is finding a partner is so hard. That could be a whole video in and of itself, but overall dating is very hard, and finding a partner worthy of giving a child is very hard. So I got this like sentence from a TikTok video, and it has honestly stuck with me for multiple years now. And this woman said, the highest honor a woman can give a man is a child. And I honestly think it is so true. I meet so many men in particular who are like, I want kids, without thinking about how difficult it truly is to have kids. And I know with helping raise my siblings and, you know, helping run a home, I have a little bit more of a closer experience than some people have, but it feels so misguided when these guys are like, well, I want kids, and it's like, but do you know what that entails? So I do think when I am dating someone, or, you know, even just talking to someone casually, and they're like, well, I want kids, my immediate thought is, are you worthy of like giving children to? And this is gonna sound harsh, but a lot of times I say no. And that's just like, you know, in that moment, me checking in with myself and how I feel. That doesn't mean that someone else won't find them worthy, but a lot of men that I meet at my age, and specifically in the area that I live in, living in South Dakota, but specifically Rapid City in general, a lot of the men that I've met in this area have severe drinking problems, no life direction, and no ambition. And I know that that's not all men, but that is a lot of men that I've met. And it's difficult. Like, they say they want these children, but yet a lot of them wouldn't be able to stop drinking for a night to cultivate a good relationship. So I would want someone who is proud to be by my side and would help me through that tough time in my life, who would not see me as used up after having a kid. And if that makes me too picky, as some people have told me, that then so be it. There are some people who have very disgusting viewpoints on, you know, women after pregnancy, or some men even think that about their own wives, and that scares me. That scares me a lot. It gives me some trust issues, honestly. And I think that's also a very valid fear, like finding a partner and then knowing whether or not they're going to love you after your body has changed, or after, you know, your priorities kind of have to shift. Your child has to become number one, especially in those very early days. Like, you can still want to focus on your relationship, but a newborn needs 100% of your attention. There's really no getting around that. And relationships are hard in general. And I could talk a lot about that. But so my third point, kids are so expensive. We all know about inflation and housing prices and all that. Do I really need to say more? I've seen statistics that say that, you know, childcare can cost as much as a year in college tuition. According to Smart Asset, when I Googled how much money does it take to raise a child for a year today, raising a child can cost up to and exceeding around $20,000 annually, which is wild. That's not including if you wanted, I don't know what that includes. That's so much money. Like, I know what I make for myself doing my day job, and I would barely be able to support one child and myself. I don't think I would be able to. I would have to have a partner or some form of community that would help me financially, and that falls a lot on family sometimes. But we all know how inflation is crazy and how expensive kids are. I feel like that's like the number one thing that people say, so I don't want to like dwell too much on that. So the fourth one I will say is a little bit interesting, but I know that other people have said this when I've had conversations. So chime in the comments if you also kind of feel this way. So the fourth one is, I don't want to fuck someone up. So I am sure that this comes from a fear of failure, and I'm not going to sit and be like, well, my parents raised me perfectly. They didn't, but they were just people, and part of growing up is realizing that your parents are just people. And I think that they did what was right in that time. And, you know, my mom had me at 19, and I remember thinking how mature I was at 19, and now being 26, knowing how mature I wasn't. So my mom had to grow up real fast. She had another human to take care of. I think everyone's parents fucked them up a little bit. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I do think that from meeting the people that I've met in my life and all this stuff. I feel like I've met quite a few people. I've lived in quite a few different places in my short lifespan. And I don't judge my parents for anything. Nothing like that. I'm not trying to come at my parents, but what I'm saying is, like, I think that all parents unintentionally kind of mess their children up. And it doesn't have to be like this all-encompassing, they're just a mess of a human who isn't functioning. It's more just like, got a little bit of trauma there, you know. I really don't think I could handle the guilt that I know I would be racked with if I felt I made a parenting mistake. I think as humans we hold ourselves to impossible standards, and I really am no different in that way. I also do have depression and anxiety, and that those things can be genetic, first off, but also my actions and behaviors could influence my children to have bad anxiety, and I don't want that for like little minds and little people. I would have to be in obviously a very good like mental state, know that, you know, I'm well medicated and all that. That's everything. Wow, writing it down made it seem like so much less than what it was, but honestly, I feel really good about this. So, let's have a discussion in the comments. I really don't want to hear anything about, like, women who don't have kids aren't realizing their full potential, because that is not something I subscribe to. I think that women can do whatever they want with their lives and their bodies. I would love to hear your responses for not or having children. Like, if you do want children, tell us if you did have a fear of pregnancy, how you kind of got over it, or, you know, maybe how you deal with parental guilt. If you're okay with sharing these stories, I'm not trying to like out people here, I guess. Again, keep it a nice space, like the video, keep it a nice space in the comments, like the video, subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.